Hi guys, Hari here. I assume I'm live right now. I'm not 100% certain, but I'm going to just go with that. Anyway, here I am today, sadly by myself, casting MiTH-Trust versus IG. This is a Prodota World League game, and well, there's basically nothing else to cast today, so hopefully you're watching. Should be a pretty good game. Asian Dota always interesting. Only one of the teams is Chinese though, so maybe we won't have too turtley of a game. Although it's not that the Chinese even necessarily play like that anymore. And I mean, we're automatically seeing an Enchantress ban, which would indicate that some respect for pushing at least, as everyone has kind of come to terms with this metagame. Yeah, I don't know. Holy, really screwing me, making it start so early without even a few bans. What I mean, really, what is there to talk about the first 6 bans? Okay, well, let's see. Is Chen going to be banned? Invoker. Actually, I guess there is something to talk about. I think I'm not 100% because I haven't actually tested tournament mode out, but I have no reason to believe that it's not the case. That the 3 new heroes, Gyrocopter, Chaos Knight, and Mortrid, will actually be in this. I wouldn't expect to see Gyrocopter or Mortrid, but Chaos Knight is certainly a relatively popular pick, and he's quite a strong hero. One that I personally hate because anything to do with randomness is never really good in my book. Axe actually my least favorite hero in the game, but that means for this game there's a decent chance that we could actually see Chaos Knight. And there he goes. Well, he's banned. But I guess that means we'll get to see one more hero that we wouldn't normally get to see. So, yeah, there's that. That's too bad. That portrait's pretty badass, too. So, yeah. Well, at least I get to stare at that for a little while. So, now that that little thing is over, there's really not a lot else to talk about. We'll see if Panda makes it in here, actually, and whether he will actually be picked up if he doesn't get banned. I would assume one of these next 2 bans has got to be Furion. Well, probably not the next ban, but probably the 3rd ban for IG, because MiTH-Trust has first pick. I don't see why you would ban Furion when you have first pick. But there's also Lycan, so maybe they want to ban Furion and then force the other team to ban Lycan. Yeah, that doesn't really make any sense. I guess you just leave both of them. Lycan and Furion, at least in my opinion, being the 2 just completely broken heroes. The heroes you really can't compete with, just on a level of brokenness incomparable to others, although Furion does make it through much more frequently than Lycan does, so maybe other people don't necessarily agree with me 100%, feel that Lycan is just a little bit stronger. But we'll have to see what these last 2 very interesting first bans are going to be. I mean, there's just so many possibilities. The first 6 bans, it's really not about taking out what you don't want to see. It's just about taking out what you feel is imbalanced. So there's the Lycan ban. So I'd assume this is going to be followed up with a Furion ban, although there's a possibility of Chen as well. That's really the only other thing I could really see getting banned at this point. I mean, things like Leshrac are a possibility, but I wouldn't say as likely. So I would just guess that you ban the Furion here and give up the first pick, Chen or Leshrac, something along those lines. And we will go from there. I wish I had a co-caster who could just start talking right now. That'd be nice. I should stop complaining about that. Anyway, it should be a pretty exciting game to watch. I mean, IG, a lot of really star-studded players on their team. Oh, and it's Chen, so we will have a first pick Furion. I cannot see any reason why it would be anything other than that. Although there was a Russian game I watched a little while ago where it was actually Furion and Invoker, both of them neither picked nor banned. Wow. So I guess I was wrong. Asian Dota on a completely different metagame than European and North American Dota, and Furion is not ban or first pick worthy all of the time, which is shocking to me. I guess when you take Windrunner, you kind of slightly negate the power of the Furion on the other team, but I don't really know if that's 100% the case. I think I would still take Furion and be perfectly happy with it. I would be grabbing Furion Leshrac right here. It'd be pretty easy. Set up for some sort of a Leshrac dual lane, or you can send Leshrac solo if you want to send Furion into the jungle. Any of that is really possible. We'll have to see how they decide to play it out here. I mean, Windrunner is a really nice first pick because she's so flexible. I mean, she can basically fit into any sort of laning composition. I mean, you can really set under her as a support in a lane if you have to, although it's not necessarily optimal, but you can put her in a dual lane with something like Earthshaker supporting her. Obviously, she can solo mid, solo long lane, solo safe lane. So, I mean, you get a lot of flexibility when you pick her first, which is always a bonus. But Furion gives a lot of flexibility, too, because he can solo anywhere or go in the jungle, which is not too bad. Yeah, so we'll have to see what exactly it is that IG decides they want to do here. And in shock to no one, there's the Furion pick. Followed up by Beastmaster, which is slightly less common, but Beastmaster's still a good pick. That long duration stun, very good against escape mechanism heroes like Windrunner. Also gives you a lot of vision on the map, which is nice when you have a Furion kind of giving you more dominant map control. being able to see and gank people all over the place, could actually look to go for some more global presence in something. Well, Ricky isn't necessarily global, but is good at ganking with Furion. And if you can get vision with the Hawk, he doesn't have to waste a lot of time actually hunting. He can just go to what you see with the Hawk and then try to get a kill. Also, things like an AA would be a possibility, although maybe not incredibly probable these days, as AA has really fallen out of favor. And, well, Enchantress and Chen both being banned already means that you're not really going to take the AA to counteract any sort of healing. Meanwhile, though, MiTH-Trust, 2 picks here. We'll have to see what exactly it is they want to go with at this point. That Leshrac is still there, which, I don't know, it's just another flexible, strong hero who is good for pushing. And, I don't know, I would expect MiTH-Trust, Southeast Asian teams usually play some pretty crazy Dota, to be honest. So maybe they'll do some sort of a pushing strategy, which would be nice. At this point, IG's lineup is looking a little bit defensive, to be honest. I mean, Furion can certainly be offensive, but more often than not, you do see him used defensively, kind of split pushing and discouraging the other team from pressuring. And yeah, it looks like we're going to have Leshrac and Morphling. Morphling has just really catapulted into the upper tier recently as people realized how effective he is early on, and the fact that he's so difficult to kill, so that he can basically farm as much as he wants uncontested. And he's going to be kind of a split-pushing answer to that Furion, which is reasonably effective. I don't really like Morphling. In fact, I generally cheer against teams that have Morphling on the team because he's just such a boring hero to watch. I mean, there are a lot of big plays with him, but he's just such a farming hero. It'll be really exciting early on when you play aggressive with him, but unless you go basically first item shotgun, you're usually going to spend a lot of time farming. And then we have the Anti-Mage pick. So we actually are going to see kind of the classic battle, the Morphling versus Anti-Mage. Who can actually counter who, which is, an object of a lot of debate. Generally speaking, I think that it's kind of agreed upon that the Anti-Mage counters Morphling earlier on, and as the game progresses, Morphling will actually eventually scale past the Anti-Mage. We'll have to see. I mean, obviously, burning out all the Morphling's mana really just kind of negates his ability to morph or to waveform. But obviously the Morphling creating a copy of Anti-Mage burns his mana and prevents him from blinking as well. But Anti-Mage is kind of going to, if he goes Battle Fury, if he has the space to, is going to go get items faster, and he's going to scale up a bit faster sooner, which could be a problem for the Morphling if they aren't able to keep the Anti-Mage down, which we will have to see. Although they have the potential to apply plenty of pressure with that Leshrac, which is obviously a good way to counteract Anti-Mage. And actually there's the Lich ban. So MiTH-Trust kind of reading that IG does want to play this game very conservatively, hopefully not too conservatively, but I mean, their picks, Beastmaster can be very defensive, using the Hawk to give vision to kind of guarantee farming. Obviously, the Furion TPing around, applying that sort of split pushing pressure I was talking about, and then setting up Anti-Mage to farm. So it looks like IG, in theory, would like to take this game as late as possible, which is, I guess, kind of one of the strengths of the Morphling, is that you're always going to have a decent chance against any late game. Morphling gets pretty insane as the game progresses. Although, there is still a possibility that IG could kind of go really aggressive with this. If they picked up a Vengeful Spirit and then maybe went for a Vlad's on the Anti-Mage, like Vlad's Vanguard build, they could actually apply pressure relatively early with that Aura stack. So, I don't know. That's a possibility, although I would say less likely. But I can hope for it, right? Anyway, the Shadow Demon ban, pretty obvious. Banning Shadow Demon. Shadow Demon, a great counter to Anti-Mage, making the 2 illusions of Anti-Mage burns mana twice as fast as an Anti-Mage. And, yeah, who doesn't like that? MiTH-Trust has one last ban, probably looking to ban another support. I would be considering at least that Vengeful Spirit ban here. Obviously, that Aura stacking very strong with Beastmaster. But actually, they go for the Lion. Lion, just great against escape mechanism heroes like Morphling and Windrunner, with a lot of disables, over 5 seconds of disable, I believe, once he's max level. Although it requires a lot of levels, too. So he's not necessarily a traditional support. Usually, you'd see him soloing just about as often as it's not. And then we have one last ban for IG here, and IG is going to ban Sand King. That's pretty standard, not wanting to give MiTH-Trust the possibility of that Sand King Leshrac combo, which is a great lane, and then also a good AoE damage combo later on in the game. But MiTH-Trust wastes no time and picks up that Crystal Maiden, so I'll have to see if they are going to do that Crystal Maiden Morphling dual lane, potentially in the mid, which would really just shut down anything that IG could send in the mid at this point. IG, with already 2 melees picked, don't really have any way of turning a dual melee or dual ranged lane in the mid, which is really the only way you can compete effectively against the Morphling CM mid. is just the fact that Morphling is kind of only a half-ranged hero. I mean, he has range, but not real range. So if you can get 2 real-ranged heroes, you can actually potentially defeat them with something like a Leshrac Shadow Demon lane, or along those lines. But based on their picks so far, there's really no possibility for that, which is maybe why MiTH-Trust was so happy to pick up that Crystal Maiden so quickly. To set up that really strong lane. And now they have a lot of potential for their last pick. I mean, Enigma is actually still in the pool, so they could try to pick Enigma, send him into the jungle, and then have Windrunner and Leshrac both soloing. Or they could, I don't know, I mean, they could even get some sort of support to go and maybe set up a tri-lane with the Morphling instead of doing the dual mid. Or they can just send the support with Leshrac, or not necessarily support, but some sort of a stunner, basically. Earthshaker's still in the pool, so that's a possibility. But Earthshaker actually not so good now that the Tide is picked up. Obviously, the problem with Earthshaker is once you get the blink, and if you blink in an ult on top of a Tide, Tide's going to respond and ravage immediately. But they do pick the Earthshaker anyway. Obviously, it's still effective enough, even against the Tide, just not as effective as it could be, as I was talking about, because the Cracking Shell is going to pop and Tide is going to ravage in response to your Shaker ult if you catch the Tide in it. And if you don't catch the Tide in it, well, you're still going to get Ravage, which kind of counter-initiates pretty effectively against Earthshaker. But obviously, Earthshaker brings a lot more to the table than just his ultimate, as Fissures can be really game-deciding from a very early phase. And IG has one last pick, and I've got to assume it's going to be a support. I would still think that the Vengeful Spirit is something they would have to consider at this point. Although, I don't know, Venomancer wouldn't be terrible against the kind of there's not really a lot of pushing intentions on MiTH-Trust, but MiTH-Trust is going to have to go earlier in this game. I mean, I don't think, even though I said Morphling does eventually outscale the Anti-Mage, I still think that the late game eventually will favor IG with the Beastmaster Anti-Mage Furion. It's just going to be too much. MiTH-Trust, has a lot of heroes that really don't scale amazingly with Earthshaker. Earthshaker has a lot of stuns, but his damage isn't going to get that great, and obviously Crystal Maiden really falls off. Although Tide does kind of fall off too once opposing heroes pick up BKBs. So I need 10 seconds left for IG here, and they are going to go with the Venomancer. So yeah, going to kind of try to slow down MiTH-Trust as much as possible, put a stop to any possibility of them pushing, and we'll have to see exactly how it is they plan on setting up their lanes here. I mean, tri-lanes have kind of fallen out of style lately, but there's still a possibility of maybe a Venomancer Tide Anti-Mage tri-lane top with the Beastmaster and Furion as the 2 solos, but it's just as equally as possible that the Furion actually ends up going into the jungle, and and Tide with that sweet helm. I forgot that the new items are in this. Anyway, I've got to just fix my camera real quick, so I've got to go to your perspective, and then I click on someone, and then free camera. Now I can actually click on people. Perfect. So anyway, gonna go over the lineups real quick. On the Radiant, for MiTH-Trust, we have TNK playing the Crystal Maiden, R5 on the Earthshaker, THA, who I actually don't know who that is. I don't know if it's Linu or not, but playing on the Windrunner, Abba on Leshrac, and Lakel's playing that signature Morphling. Meanwhile, over on IG, we have Zhao, the standard carry player, playing on the Anti-Mage, 430 or Ferrari playing on Beastmaster, Faith on the Venomancer, YYF on Tide, and Chuan on the Nature's Prophet. So it looks like we will have that Nature's Prophet in the Sacrifice lane and Beastmaster in mid, which is actually a lot less common these days to see Beastmaster mid not in the Sacrifice lane. I would have expected it to be switched up, but I couldn't really predict with certainty because anything's really possible with those 2 heroes. Although I think Furion mid is more optimal. Beastmaster really does get shut down mid more frequently these days. We'll have to see how that works out. Looks like we actually are going to have matching tri-lanes up top, and this is really going to favor MiTH-Trust. The Windrunner tri-lane, really substandard in... and actually, Anti-Mage is going to blink in and go for this regen rune. Actually could have been a lot of trouble with his blink cooldown. The Fissure is going to stun him, but it's not going to be enough for them to catch him. Shackle Shot flying, it is not going to latch him to anything. But Earthshaker will just grab this regen rune, I assume, in a second here. He's just going to wait for something. Oh, he's just going to wait for a Fissure and Fissure something? I don't really know. No, he's just going to take it now. He's just waiting a little bit before he grabbed it. And yeah, so I was going to say that Windrunner tri-lanes are really uncommon in North American or European Dota, but relatively, no, not standard, but significantly more common in Asian Dota. And this is going to be really favorable for them. Especially now that they have this ward placed down, there won't be the possibility for a lot of pulling coming out from IG here, and they just have a lot more killing potential. Earthshaker, an amazing tri-lane against tri-lane hero, and actually they're going to try to go for the Anti-Mage here. Fisher's going to come out, Anti-Mage is just going to blink away. But that's fine, because it's a lot of harassment. Earthshaker does have 3 clarities, so he's going to be able to clarity back up and be able to Fissure again in no time. And meanwhile, Tide is just looking to pull the weak camp, the really weak camp that is, to try to gain some semblance of lane control here. But it's really just not going to be too good for IG. Meanwhile, though, Morphling versus Furion. Furion should actually be favored in this lane. He should just be able to put down a little bit more harassment on the Morphling, I would think. But we'll have to see how it actually plays out in the end. 5-0 for the Morphling versus 2-2 for Furion. And then meanwhile in the mid, Leshrac versus Beastmaster, really favorable for Leshrac. But Leshrac is going the fast bottle build, so he will be able to kind of rune control effectively enough using the axes. Surprisingly, he actually did go 1 level in Call of the Wild. Kind of what we saw originally this from Asian Dota before we actually started to see it anywhere else was the 1-point Inner Beast early on, just to help push the lane and make rune control even easier. But instead he's opted for the Call of the Wild. He's actually just trying to get to level 2 Call of the Wild as quickly as possible, so he has that boar to kind of compete with the incredible range harass from the Leshrac. This Leshrac who actually has been maxing Lightning Storm instead of going for an Edict build. So I guess that also signifies that they're really not that interested in pushing necessarily. Beastmaster does have his bottle now. Did just get it carried to him, but unfortunately missing the first rune as the haste was actually picked up top from the Earthshaker. Meanwhile, though, Windrunner just trading, well, not really trading blows, just harassing the crap out of this Anti-Mage. Anti-Mage should get an early 4-man shield while getting regen from his teammates, so that's going to help him shrug off the harassment just a little bit, but he's still going to have a significant amount of trouble actually standing toe-to-toe in this lane with the Windrunner. The pull will help them temporarily, but because it wasn't a stacked pull, it was just a normal pull, MiTH-Trust will be able to regain the lane shortly as the Crystal Maiden is pulling out these creeps and bringing them back to her wave. Furion actually going 2 points in Nature's Call, 1 point in Teleportation. So using these trees with him to try to harass and last hit as much as possible. Really just wants to win this lane. Isn't looking to go ganking anywhere. Well, I mean, now he has 1 point Sprout, obviously at level 4, but that's standard. But wasn't really looking to gank anywhere anytime soon, because the problem is if he leaves this lane, he's just giving Morphling free farm, which is not necessarily something it's not something anyone ever wants. Ferrari is out of bottle charges here in the mid now, though. We'll have enough for axes by the time it's time to go get the next rune. But with 2 levels in Lightning Storm for the Leshrac, it's still going to have difficulty actually pushing the lane back now, and actually goes for Call of the Wild instead. I'll be interested to see if he does send the board to maybe try to go deny the rune if he has to. We'll have to see. And he's not bottle crowing or anything, so I don't know. I guess maybe he will still have mana in time. Yeah, he will actually, based on the region. He'll be able to access this next wave and then hopefully go to the next rune, which he is actually using his Hawk to Scout the bottom rune while they have a ward up at the top. And meanwhile, the Tide has actually just been doing a good job getting that weak camp pull and pulling it in turn into something else. So some really nice pulling by him. Oh, and actually it looks like there's a gank setting up in the mid, but they're not actually going to get, well, no, maybe. With 3 points in Lightning Storm, they could do a significant amount of damage here. The Edict, Lightning Storm comes out, 1 more right click, but it's not actually going to be enough. And the Courier does bring the boots to Beastmaster, who fortunately enough was already heading bottom and is going to go pick up an Invis rune now. Not going to really be able to use this effectively because of how low HP and mana he is, and he doesn't have ult yet, but it will actually let him get back to full health, full mana, or close to that. Meanwhile, Anti-Mage actually blinking in top. Furion has TP'd in. They are going to go for this Crystal Maiden. Crystal Maiden going to go down first. Power Shot actually missing on the Anti-Mage. So they're actually going to be able to get a kill on this Windrunner as well. Gush coming out. Furion gets the double kill, and Anti-Mage lives. Really nice job there by IG with the movement eventually coming from Furion and just finding MiTH-Trust when the Earthshaker was out of position and they really couldn't react appropriately. They saw the Earthshaker come mid, try to kill the Beastmaster, and they said, okay, this is time to go. They all grouped up and got 2 kills. So that really was just the problem for MiTH-Trust. I mean, they had kind of favorable lanes in at least 2 out of the 3, and not really that bad of a lane in the bottom. I mean, 34-9 on the Morph. Wow, 30. Jeez. I mean, he's had a little bit of time since the Furion left, but I guess some of that is trees too. Still, that's some really good CS from him. So yeah, I don't feel like it was necessary for MiTH-Trust to try to move that Earthshaker mid to try to get a kill. All they did was expose themselves to this gank top. And I mean, this is kind of the problem you have when you play against Chinese teams, is that they just don't make mistakes like this. They just play very cautious, very defensively, and you eventually overcommit to something and just leave an opening. I mean, if you have favorable lanes, just keep staying in them, keep taking the advantage. The problem was that this Tide was doing a good job pulling top, and that was helping, I don't know, IG to gain a little bit of a semblance of control, but still, I don't know. I mean, obviously, hindsight is 20/20, We'll have to see what MiTH-Trust can now do. And I mean, now they're kind of playing from the gun, having to do something to make up for this. We do have a smoked Earthshaker. He's going to look for the 6-minute rune top. It is unfortunately going to spawn bottom again. It's just an illusion, so nothing really very significant that he could do with that. And Beastmaster is going to run down there happily, using it to fill up his bottle. He is level 6 now, and he has a smoke on him, so he's going to look to set up a gank using that ult. Can't really gank bottom, though, because even if he ults the Morphling, they're not going to be able to kill with a Furion down there. So he's going to have to look to go somewhere else. He is going to use that illusion rune and start just bottling up. Oh, and he actually does smoke. Smoke actually catches both of his illusions here. I thought he maybe wanted to leave one of those illusions mid. And if he hits with it, yeah, it's going to reveal that there was actually a smoke used, if they were paying enough attention. He is going to try to gank top, though. He has enough mana for his ult, so he will be looking to try to get ult, probably on this Windrunner, who is playing forward because she assumes she's safe. And yeah, and actually she's in... no, and actually he's going to find the Crystal Maiden first. We'll have to see if he turns to the Windrunner first. The Roar is going to come out, and Windrunner's already used Windrunner. Furion ult coming and doing a lot of damage. This is going to be a double kill again. Wow, Nature's Prophet on a killing spree, and Beastmaster picks up one as well. So again, just really nice movement from IG, exploiting the opening that's left by the Earthshaker, once again not being top. And I said Earthshaker is just an amazing tri-lane against tri-lane hero, because even if they try to go on you, they really can just get stopped completely dead in their tracks with that Fissure. And obviously it leaves plenty of potential for you to go on them as well. But when the Earthshaker is never up there, you're really in a lot of trouble. And Windrunner is a good hero to have up on the long lane because she has a good escape mechanism, but it's just not really enough when there's 4 heroes up there, especially one with a long duration stun like I was talking about. Meanwhile, there is action in mid. Looks like Tide is actually being chased down by this Earthshaker and Leshrac. They should probably be able to catch him. Leshrac is actually slightly faster than Tide. If the Earthshaker stops blocking him, maybe Tide does have a TP, so he's going to look for a juke spot here, and he's actually just going to TP out. Wow, he really shouldn't have been able to get away there. Meanwhile, action going on up top. Morphling does take out the Anti-Mage. Morphling actually had to TP up top, like Crystal Maiden paying for it. Obviously worth it, a 1-for-1 trade here. Getting the opposing carry and a kill for your carry, and they actually are still chasing after this Venomancer, although there's really not anything they're going to be able to do about it. Venomancer should be just fine. Morphling is up there by himself, and alone he cannot actually get a kill, and yeah, Earthshaker was too far away to actually land the Fissure combo. So a fair 1-for-1 trade there, but again, pulling the Morphling away from the bottom is actually going to give Furion an opening, I would assume, to try to push this in here. See, no, he's actually, well, maybe he's just getting something from the courier now. Just finishes up his treads and decides not to push. And I'm a little bit shocked by that. I would expect him to just make treants and kind of put some damage on this tower, especially since he still has his catapult there, which would actually mean that some fair amount of damage could be done. But now the Morphling is almost back bottom, and so he's going to be forced back off. Looks like, yeah, he's just going to throw out his ult. Thinking about TPing somewhere. Morphling going to throw a few right clicks on him. Was fortunate enough to pick up a regen rune, but it isn't really going to do anything with it. And looks like the call for a pause coming out. I'm going to take this chance to have a sip of water, so hold on. Being the only one talking is brutal. Never get breaks. Anyway, I guess I can take this time. Just take a look at the farm, first of all. As I talked about earlier, I mean, that Morphling, just insane farm. 56 CS at, well, 8 minutes, 9 minutes. I mean, that's really good. That's not insane, but it's really, really good. I guess you wouldn't quite say it's on Burning's level, but it's still pretty impressive. Meanwhile, the Windrunner actually has farmed quite well top. I mean, if you look at it, IG's gotten a lot of kills, but their farm is still really lacking. The Anti-Mage has only gotten 17 CS. Actually has 1 death as well, so his gold per minute really can't be that high. I have to take a look at that now. Yeah, he's sitting actually at 175 gold per minute. Really not good at all. Although if you look at it, the Earthshaker and the Crystal Maiden both sub 100. So it's kind of the kills are spreading more even gold per minute out across the IG team. But at the same time, that Morphling has just farmed exceedingly well, which we'll have to see what he's going to do with that. I mean, has the Ring of Health, so I would assume it's going to be first item Lincolns, which makes sense when you're playing against a Beastmaster, having something to avoid that huge stun, which is really designed to kill you, does make sense. And speaking of items, though, might as well take a look at everyone else's. Anti-Mage, as I talked about, did go for that early Poor Man's Shield, which would indicate that he's probably going to go for Battle Fury, which is what you would expect from an Anti-Mage these days. Does have the Ring of Health. Didn't farm very well at all, so again, Battle Fury is going to be real late, but maybe he'll still do it anyway, or maybe he will still decide to turn that Ring of Health into a Vanguard. Although, like I said, with the Poor Man's Shield, that's certainly less likely. Beastmaster already has picked up Arcane Boots, nothing really else there. And yeah, Chuan does have his treads finished as well as an urn, so looking to be a very active Furion, not going for anything like a Light of Heaven's Hand of Midas or anything along those lines. And an coming out from MiTH-Trust to continue 4 versus 5. That's not good. Or unless they're saying a different time. No, I guess. Are we really going to be playing a 4 versus 5 here? That would be most unfortunate. I mean, Southeast Asian LAN or internet not always the most reliable. And I guess that could be the case here. Anyway, I guess I'll just ping greater than 500 and now no network at LAN shop. I don't really know exactly what's going to happen, but yeah, let's just... as far as other items go, Windrunner already has Blades of Attack, looking to finish up, or very close to finishing up Phase Boots, and Morphling, as talked about, just has Treads and Ring of Health. He's out of town. Okay, well, I'm just going to take another drink while this sorts itself out. Well, basically, it would be very, very difficult for MiTH-Trust to win this 4 versus 5, and Chuan, being the good sportsman that he is, wants to play a real game, not play 4 versus 5 and kind of have a default win, which is basically what that would be. So he's trying to insist, being happy to actually wait, which is really good sportsmanship. Saying, yeah, we'll be happy to wait as long as it takes to get your 5th back, have him go to another LAN shop or something like that. But if that's not a possibility, that would be most unfortunate. As we all do want to see a real game of Dota here. Not really. Well, yeah, I guess they're going to ask an admin whether it's possible to play 4 versus 5 or what exactly is going to go on. And I'm going to come take a look at the chat. Yeah. Someone that Fox answer. Oh. Yeah, guys, for those of you who are still watching, you're welcome to type anything in the chat right now. I'm not sure what the delay on the stream is, or if there's any delay now. Holy's pretty bad at actually setting up delay. It gets very greedy. So I can probably see exactly what you guys are saying. So what happened is basically that one person, their internet died, one of the players, maybe the LAN shop died, and yeah, they cannot continue playing. So MiTH-Trust wants to just continue 4 versus 5, whereas IG wants to wait or try to get 5 versus 5 however they can, and they're trying to sort it out right now. Hopefully it's not 4 versus 5. But yeah, the person who dropped is actually Abba, the Leshrac from MiTH-Trust. So the ruling from the admin comes in that 4 versus 5 is fine, and I guess Chuan is content to have to play like this if they have to, so that's looks like what it's going to be. His neighbor. Yeah, generally speaking, in Thailand, Southeast Asia, people aren't playing from their homes. They're playing in LAN shops, LAN cafes or whatever, so internet cafes, and I guess if it failed, there's not another one nearby that he can go to or whatever, so that's why he's not going to be able to just, as someone suggested, go to his neighbor. But anyway, the game has resumed 4 versus 5 now, so I will actually stop looking at the chat and get back into talking about what's going on here. Although, well, it actually looks like they are controlling the Leshrac. I would love to know who is actually the person who has to play 2 heroes now. I mean, maybe it's the Crystal Maiden. You don't really have a lot of a job as Crystal Maiden, just setting up wards and stuff like that. Well, past the early game, so maybe she's going to try to control 2, and we'll have to see who it is that's actually going to use the Leshrac, or whether the Leshrac will eventually end up just being put back in base. I would generally love to say, well, let's just chalk this one up to an IG win and stop commentating it. But you never know. There is a possibility for a 4 versus 5 win. Like I said, that Morphling has farmed exceedingly well, and I mean, I don't know. He could potentially carry the game for them against IG here, so we'll have to see what does end up happening. Always unfortunate not to have a game play out in the fairest possible manner, but who really knows? Anyway, looks like the Furion already has a Sage's Mask. There's a possibility that could be indicative of an early Roche rush, maybe going for a Medallion, or maybe he just wants to make a Ring of Basilius, which is pretty standard on a Furion. We'll have to see which direction exactly he opts to go with that. I'm actually going to have to prop open my window real quick, so excuse me for 2 seconds while I don't watch the game. It drives me crazy. It gets so hot in this tiny room that I have this computer in, and if I leave the window open, it always keeps banging open and close from the air. Looks like it is actually probably Crystal Maiden controlling Leshrac, because the Leshrac is kind of just behind Crystal Maiden. Maybe they actually don't want to show that Leshrac is still here. They're hoping to get IG to kind of dive this top tower, and then bam! You know, level 8 Leshrac with level 4 and Edict just comes in there and does a crazy amount of damage. Who really knows? Morphling already does his Perseverance stun, so that will be a really nice time Lincolns, I would say. And Courier flying out for IG actually just has an energy booster heading over to the Venomancer. So another set of Arcane Boots up for the Venomancer, which is going to make it that much easier for him to continually keep this mid lane, not necessarily pressured forward, but prevent it from being pushed towards their tower, which again would also potentially be indicative of an early Roche steal. Yep, and we actually do have the Medallion recipe up from the Furion, so yeah. The reason is, with the mid, is that you keep these wards up, you keep the mid lane pushed like this. Oh, and actually there's going to be action top. Roar coming out on the Leshrac. They are going to go on the Leshrac here. Tide does have his ult, going to pop it, and this is going to be a double kill. Tide actually getting both of them with an Anchor Smash. Just looking amazing while he does it. Although, God, he looks like a badass now, but I really loved his fish, so I'm kind of sad to see that go. But that is a double kill and a tower top, which, pretty good for IG. And at the same time, it looks like Windrunner, and I thought Windrunner or Earthshaker were looking to gank here. The Shackle Shot is not actually going to latch anything, trying to get a couple more right clicks on the Tide. Beastmaster is actually doing a pretty good job blocking. Morphling is actually going to come in, waveforming in. Freeze is going to come out on the Beastmaster. They do get the kill. Power Shot actually not hitting Tide. Windrunner trying for it there, though. So they do get 1 kill in return. But unfortunately, 1 kill for 2 and losing a tower, not really worth it. And meanwhile, now Venomancer actually is going to be able to pressure the mid. He's level 6, so he has level 3 wards, and those do a significant amount of damage, even if they don't do a lot to towers, because they do piercing damage, and piercing is significantly reduced when damaging towers. They kill creep waves pretty quickly and tank tower damage, which allows you to pressure a tower like this, and we'll see if he actually is going to take down this tower in time, or if there will be actually any sort of response from MiTH-Trust. Looks like MiTH-Trust actually wanting to push top. I mean, they have level 8 Leshrac with level 4 Edict, so it's likely they want to try to take some towers while they can. But I don't really know. I mean, if they don't respond to this mid soon, they're going to lose it. And tower trading is really not worth it for them at this point. Especially, actually, yeah, they're losing bottom too. Furion is actually pushing in this bottom. There's going to be a TP in from the Morphling. We'll see if he can... Nope, it's actually going to be too late for the deny. Ult coming out from the Furion. Looks like Morphling wants to chase, but Furion has 800 health still from those strength treads. And then there's action top. Earthshaker going to go down instantaneously. Beastmaster, Roar, and Axe is enough to take him out. Edict coming out from the Leshrac, doing a fair amount of damage, but Furion TP's in behind, gets that Medallion up, and that's just a double kill for the Anti-Mage, using his ult to pop the Crystal Maiden to guarantee that he gets the last hit. And Furion sprouts some more trees, and they are going to try to push this tier 2 tower down. Meanwhile, the tier 1 is just slightly outside of deny range. Really well done by the Venomancer there, not even allowing that to be denied. It's very close to getting level 7, so we'll have max wards as well. And Anti-Mage, like to click on him if I can. Yeah, still just has his Ring of Health, so he's actually... I mean, even though his timing was pretty poor for the Battle Fury before, a few kills and a few towers will make up for that more rapidly than one might assume. When we're looking... Oh, there's the Shackle Shot. But Tide actually doesn't have his ult for a couple seconds, so he's actually going to just die to this tower here. Power Shot finishing him off. Wanted to see if that was really going to happen, and certainly enough it did. You can actually kill a Tide. Fisher is going to hit Furion. The Shackle Shot not going to latch him to anything. Maiden wants to have a slow 1 second. Will the blast hit? The blast does actually hit, and then the freeze should be coming shortly. Power Shot, one more right click, and actually the freeze from Crystal Maiden is enough to finish off the Furion. Anti-Mage was running from behind. Beastmaster ult in 5 seconds, so we'll be looking to ult again. Anti-Mage getting a few hits on the Earthshaker. Windrunner actually chose to Windrun, is going to have to block now because she does not have actually anything for a Shackle Shot. One more right click on the Earthshaker. Earthshaker going to go down from the Beastmaster Roar, and Anti-Mage finishing him off. So as I was saying, even if his Battle Fury timing was bad before, a few kills and a few towers down, and that'll turn around quite quickly. And meanwhile, all this was happening, the Venomancer did manage to pick up the tower mid, and has now rotated bottom to keep this tower, their tier 1 tower there, from going down. Chuan creating some trees up. This tower will most certainly go down. Tide does have his ult, so there's no way that MiTH-Trust can be wanting to fight here. Morphling instead is just going to TP in and try to get a little farm from this. Gush is actually going to come out, but he is strength morphing. Ooh, there's a nice new animation, I think, for when you're actually morphing, which I like that. Anti-Mage actually is going to blink it. Doesn't Anti-Mage have his ult? No, Tide ult is going to come out. Shackle Shot not going to, well, latches Tide, but Tide has already gotten his ult off, which isn't actually that big of a deal, whether you hold him down or not. And you actually do manage to get 2-for-1 kill. Anti-Mage picking up even more kills, and that really does not bode well. The Anti-Mage certainly can't be getting this many kills this early on, and you hope to have the game go well. Although then again, like we've already established, it is a 4 vs 5. So taking a look at the goal or experience graph. Experience graph actually was in favor of MiTH-Trust basically the entire time until essentially the Leshrac left, which is really unfortunate. It shows that they kind of set up their lanes quite well in the beginning. Goal graph was basically even as well, and has now taken a harsh dive in favor of IG. That's really painful to see, actually. And now 7,500 gold advantage for IG at this point, and with that medallion and a double damage on the Fury, and they're going to go for a real fast Roche here. Lifesteal, actually. So is that Vlad's somewhere? Yep, Vlad's is actually up on the Beastmaster as well. So yeah, this Roche is going to go down so fast. And Furion is actually going for a Necrobook. Almost has Necrobook level 1. If he gets the last hit on this Roche, he will actually probably have enough for it. Which with this double damage and medallion, I assume he can do. Will I maybe even give it to him? No, he doesn't actually have enough. But Anti-Mage actually picking up the Aegis, just as if he actually would need it. Does have his Battle Fury up, so 16-minute Battle Fury treads, 4-minute shield is good timing. It's not insane, but it's good. Especially considering how poor his farm was early on in the game. That's certainly something he will be happy about. Still, though, the Morphling does have 110 CS. Already has to have his Lingus. Not quite have his Lingus done. Is it flying to him on the courier? No, not flying to him on the courier. But so almost has it. Level 3 Lightning Storm slowing down the IG push a little bit in the mid. But they've already got Urn with 2 more charges, so it's going to be pretty difficult for them to get denied here. Anti-Mage actually, though, is blinking out. Decides he wants to go farm somewhere else while his team pushes in this tower. Says there's no creeps here for me. My Battle Fury is not going to do anything. Why even waste my time? But looks like they will actually manage to push them back. They have great counter push, obviously in the form of level 3 Lightning Storm from Leshrac, Power Shot from Windrunner, max level Crystal Nova from the Crystal Maiden. But I'm just afraid it's not going to be enough. Ult will be back up for Tide in 10 seconds. Does have his hood done. Not quite a pipe yet. Ult is up for the Beastmaster. Morphling does manage to pick up a tower bottom. So that's good, but looks like at the same time this tower. Ooh, nice Shackle Shot, latching the Earthshaker, or the Beastmaster. Earthshaker actually going in, but Tide does pop his ult, and the Earthshaker is going to die basically instantaneously. Just goes down way too fast. It was a nice Shackle Shot, though. Anti-Mage actually blinking back in. Not really to kill anyone, but moves around faster. Has only 3 points in mana break, max level blink, so he can spam that pretty quickly. Morphling does finally have to TP back here. Has finished up his Blinkins, but the Beastmaster and... well, no, the Beastmaster ult is actually not down. Beastmaster going to ult on the Leshrac, and Leshrac just pops as the Anti-Mage blinks in. Anti-Mage unstoppable now. A few more right clicks on him will be enough to take him down, but that is just an Aegis. He's going to be very content coming back up, although not a lot of abilities left for his team. Venomancer still has his ult, though, so maybe a good positioning to pop that pretty soon here. Shackle Shot going to latch the Fury into the Beastmaster. Venomancer ult popping up. So many low heroes on IG, but just nothing to finish them off yet. Faith is going to go down on this Venomancer. One more right click from Windrunner. Wow. Actually not going to be able to throw a Power Shot out. Just shoot it. Shoot it. Oh, no. You're going to die without even getting the Venomancer. Oh, that's too bad. And Morphling was also not able to pick up anyone. One waveform through the 3 heroes on IG there would have been so easily picking up at least 2 kills, if not 3 for him. But unfortunately just didn't have enough there. And IG all make it out of there alive. And this is tough. How did I not even realize that instead of dragging a fish, he drags a big ball and chain? Tide, huh, whatever. Still a fish is cooler. Although this is more badass, I'll give you that. But the fish always kind of makes me a little bit hungry, which is actually kind of sad or weird, I think. Anyway, taking a look at the items where they've dealt from here. Windrunner, who has also farmed quite well, obviously was in that tri-lane, already has the 4-step done and working towards the mech as well. So basically going both those standard early Windrunner items. And they need that mech desperately, because if they're losing the game early, they kind of have to turn it around somehow. And mech is the sort of item that can do that, rather than saving towards Hex, which would be a long ways off. Leshrac, hasn't really picked up anything else, unsurprisingly. Meanwhile, for the Dire, mech is up on the Venomancer. I assume the pipe will be almost done on Tide. And Furion still holding a level 2 Necrobook just in his stash. Doesn't even want to take it. Going to surprise the Radiant with that. Fisher coming out, only serving to really block in this Crystal Maiden, but I guess it's going to protect her from anyone pursuing her right now. The tower is going to go down. Windrunner actually force-tapping the Crystal Maiden forward. Does manage a nice Shackle Shot. Beastmaster Hardy has gotten his ult off. One hero going to go down, 2 heroes, 3 down for the Radiant here with, actually, no one died on the Dire. I guess the Morphling isn't actually here, so that makes sense. He is actually going to be able to take this tier 1 tower top, but it's not going to be enough. I guess he's just trying to win a farming war at this point. And not really hoping to be able to win team fights 4 versus 5, especially against the Tide when they've got no BKBs or anything like that. Gale is coming out from Venomancer on the Windrunner. Windrunner with level 3 Windrun will be just fine here. Throwing out a few more right clicks, doing her best to try to deny this, but it's really unlikely that IG will not be able to take this tower. Well, the TP is going to come in from Earthshaker. Earthshaker was in good position to get a ult off, but unfortunately the TP just took a little bit too long. If it had been a faster TP, he actually could have had a nice TP and an ult there. But unfortunately, without a blink, his ult is pretty useless if he can't TP on top of heroes. Anti-Mage does get frozen as he runs in. Venomancer ult flying out. Earthshaker ult actually does a little bit of damage, but it's just not enough. IG is just too far ahead at this point. Tide ult going to hit 4 heroes from MiTH-Trust. Earthshaker goes down to the Anti-Mage. Anti-Mage pretty low, but Windrunner actually does pop. Windrunner actually buying back into the game, is going to be trying to come back in here. Morphling will have a waveform in 1 second. Lightning bouncing around. Doesn't actually hit the Furion, which would have been the target there. Power shot going to fly. Nice Shackle Shot. Latching the Furion again, but Beastmaster ult is back up, and the Morphling goes down. Morphling, though, instantaneously buying back. Will he be able to TP in on top? And no, he's actually not going to. So unfortunately, all that gold he farmed by split pushing while IG was pushing is completely lost in that buyback, which isn't accomplishing anything. I mean, I guess it, in theory, scares IG back, but IG's already taken the melee racks. The damage is done. And it looks like MiTH-Trust will be losing this game. I mean, hate to call it, but 4 versus 5 and this far behind. And speaking of this far behind, 14,000 gold, and I'm sure it hasn't Bleak even kicked in yet. So that's really rough. I'm going to take 2 seconds, having a drink of water, though. God, I love water. Roche timing, yeah, still a ways off that. Look, they kind of maybe wanted to migrate over there, but not gonna happen. Furion does finally have his level 3 Necrobook on him now, so we'll be able to use that in the next push, which I will assume will be coming bottom very soon here to try to take the tower and racks there. And I really don't know what MiTH-Trust could possibly do about it. IG, nice picks. I mean, obviously the Tide is just so strong early on and made it very easy for them to win team fights. I would been interested to see how this would have actually played out if MiTH-Trust had all been here. If they would have been able to do anything differently just by split pushing as much as possible. Trying to deny the IG pushes. I mean, maybe IG wouldn't have been pushing like this either if they knew they were playing a 5 versus 5. But 4 versus 5, they just want to end the game as quickly as possible. Earthshaker actually might get caught out here, but no, not quite. Beastmaster can't quite reach him. Beastmaster does have level 1 Necronomicon. Anti-Mage already has his Manta up. Looks like Leshrac is going to get trapped in the Sprout here. Axes from the Beastmaster going to be enough to finish him off. Pipe actually done on the Tide is popped to try to push in and take this tower here. Edict doing a not insignificant amount of damage even after the Leshrac is done. Shackle Shot going to latch the Tide and the Beastmaster. Both of them so tanky that it's not really doing much. Morphling is actually going to go for it. Has the Adaptive Strike in 1 second, but actually has to run past, leading the entire IG team. Shackle Shot from behind, latching Anti-Mage to the Beastmaster. Anti-Mage is going to blink in, though. Beastmaster Roar on the Morphling is enough to take him down, and his illusion version of Anti-Mage pops at the same time. Windrunner throwing out a power shot here to try to slow them down, but it's not going to be enough. She's going to have to run back to base now as she's completely out of mana, and the Necrobook push is going to continue from IG. Fisher, Sprout actually does manage to lash the Earthshaker, and wow, so much damage coming out with that medallion on the Earthshaker. Earthshaker not having a ton of armor. And natively, Venomancer ult going to come out. Tide actually popping his ult as well, so looking like they're wanting to do a little bit of diving here. The Venomancer ult actually did not hit the Crystal Maiden, but Crystal Maiden, no, actually will manage to get force snapped out by the Windrunner. Windrunner this time saving the Crystal Maiden's life rather than forcing her into her potential death. But racks and tower are down bottom. Melee or ranged racks also down mid. And if it wasn't GG before, this is most certainly GG now. Unfortunate that the only game that was today, and what would have been a pretty interesting matchup, had to be ruined in such a way, but that's life in esports, I guess. Blink coming in from Anti-Mage. Anti-Mage wanting to use his newfound man to try to get some kills. Morphling wants all his farming all game to amount to something, just wants to get a single kill, but it's not going to happen. Goes down as well. Mech pop by Venomancer. Earthshaker does manage to TP in on top, but only one level in Aftershock, just basically no stun coming out, and the GG's coming out from MiTH-Trust. I wanted to use some other word other than coming out, since I just said coming out from Earthshaker, but I couldn't think of anything in time. I really failed there, respect MiTH. Yeah, I guess Holy's right. I mean, playing 4 versus 5, it really, you know, a lot of teams would have tried to kind of get out of this, say, oh, well, we remake some time, you know, our player just dropped, we can't play now, can we postpone the game? But MiTH-Trust were willing to play 4 versus 5, even though they knew it would probably be a loss. So, yeah, definitely respectful, or gotta respect them in that regard, showing some good sportsmanship, and respect IG for the fact that they were they were willing to delay the game if it meant that they could actually play a 5 versus 5. But anyway, that's how the game's going to end regardless, and we do have a quick win from IG. So, at least it wasn't a long, well, no, I think I would have even rathered a long Turtle Fest Chinese style than what happened here, but can't pick them. Well, can't pick. What does that even mean? I don't know what I wanted to say to God. I haven't cast in a while. My English language is failing me. Anyway, guys, this is Hari from Dota Live. If you enjoyed this cast, even if you didn't enjoy the game too much, you can certainly find us on Twitter, Facebook, or YouTube, which is just basically all those things /Dota Live. I think one of them is Dota Live Net, but whatever. I mean, you're on our Twitch TV thing. You can just scroll right down on the page and click on the links if you want to find them. So anyway, thanks for watching, and this was the Pro Dota World League. I hope you guys enjoyed. We will be back to cast more Asian matches, hopefully in the coming weeks, very soon. So yeah, that's all. Thanks for watching.